What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to episode number 2 of the Beyond the Bench podcast. It's your boy, Jace K here. We're back with another episode this week, kind of recapping a little bit about what happened last week, mainly in the NFL. And then we're also going to dive into a little bit about some topics amongst some of the other sports, especially this week. We have a pretty fun and pretty interesting week ahead coming up as the PGA Tour golf season kicks off after the Century Tournament was postponed due to weather and course conditions. They have their first event of the season this week starting Thursday. And we also have a pretty exciting weekend slate ahead, not only for NFL playoff football, but we also have the Australian Open tennis tournament kicking off on Sunday, with actually qualifiers have been going for a couple of days now. Actually, believe it or not, I've actually thrown a few of those on from time to time during the middle part of the day, depending on, just to kind of get a glimpse into a little bit of the tennis game, because I think I mentioned it in my past podcast, but I got to be honest, I really am a fan of tennis, especially over these last couple of years. It's definitely something that I've started to really enjoy. So looking forward to having that season kick off as well with a pretty big tournament right out the get-go. Going to be a fun week, boys. But once again, for anybody popping in here, I appreciate you guys all popping back in. Episode number 2, both on Spotify as well as on YouTube. So if you guys are a fan, feel free to follow on both platforms, like the podcast, share it amongst some of your friends. It means a ton. So I appreciate all your guys' time, and let's jump right in. Now, as we kind of mentioned, a big one here is we're going to be touching on the NFL this week. It was a huge week, first week of the playoffs, bunch of pretty good games. So first one we're going to hit on here, guys, is obviously the Rams versus the Panthers. Genuinely, I was pretty impressed with the Panthers in this game. I thought the Rams were going to win this one by quite a bit, and the Panthers put up a heck of a fight. It came down to the wire, and the Rams were able to just quickly edge them out to get into the next round. Now, Matthew Stafford had himself a very Matthew Stafford game. Dude's been playing out of his mind all season, so he did nothing short of do the same thing there. 304 yards, had 3 touchdowns, as well as 1 interception, which is pretty typical Matthew Stafford. But the dude had a great game again, and of course, it's easy to have a great game when you have a receiver like Puka Nacua, who once again absolutely tore up the field. The guy had 10 catches for 111 yards, as well as a touchdown, and then he did also have a touchdown on the ground. So he had a 1 rushing touchdown as well, putting together a heck of a day, just like we expect him to do week in and week out. The guy is an incredible athlete, incredible receiver, and he's going to be a big piece for the Rams to see if they can get themselves back to a Super Bowl opportunity. Now, flipping it over to the other side of the ball there, where we have the Carolina Panthers. Bryce Young had himself 264 and 1 touchdown, 1 interception, as well as 1 rushing touchdown on the ground. So, not the best, but not the worst. The guy definitely gave his team an opportunity to win the game. Chuba Hubbard, 46 yards on the ground with 2 rushing touchdowns. And then the real spotlight of this game for the Panthers was Jalen Coker. Man, that guy came out with 9 receptions, 134 yards and a touchdown. And I'm not one who follows the Panthers overly in depth. And for me to see this guy's name just kind of pop out of the stat sheet, I was kind of shocked, to be honest with you. So it was a little bit interesting to see a man like that just pull out of nowhere and kind of really run the show for the Panthers offensively, especially when they have some guys like, McMillan, who's a stud. And they also, have a couple other little receiver targets as well as some tight ends that have been kind of getting the ball more so this year. And then Jalen Coker's kind of just tearing it down. So pretty cool to see. Now, that obviously with the Rams winning the game, they go on next week, or I guess really I should say this coming weekend, to playing the Chicago Bears. That'll be Sunday at 6:30 Eastern time. Now, I think that is going to be an incredible matchup. That's going to be a ton of fun to watch. The Bears are having honest to God, that's a historic season the Bears are having right now. It's been an enjoyment to watch. I'm a Vikings fan, as I stated last episode, but if I had to pick a number 2, I know it's going to be crazy to hear this because we're in the same division, but it is the Chicago Bears. A bunch of my family growing up was a Chicago Bears household. So it's pretty cool to see the Bears having themselves a great season. taking down the Packers, which I love to see. So beating the Packers last weekend in a pretty awesome fashion, which we will touch on momentarily. But that being said, based on some projections for this week, we have the USA Today has the Rams winning 34-26, whereas the Arizona Republic has the Bears winning 27-24. So I think that game is going to be a really fun game to watch. It should be pretty explosive offensively, if I had to make an assumption. And I'm really looking forward to that game this coming weekend. Definitely going to be arguably maybe the one I want to watch more than any. Now, once again, popping on back into the Bears talk here, boys, but 31-27, Chicago Bears win the football game, and it was an incredible game, man. The Bears looked horrific, and the Packers looked incredible to start out the game, and I got to be honest, I had almost zero hopes at all. Hindsight, I wish I would have hammered the Bears money line when they were down like they were, because that was just an incredible comeback. I mean, Caleb Williams threw for almost 400 yards, 361 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks. Very Caleb Williams, but he should really shown this year that he has developed a ton, and he's really turned himself into a franchise quarterback. And when the game has really been on the line and they need to make some of these big plays, man, he's done a hell of a job of getting it done. And then Colston Loveland, man, this guy really, really has popped off this year. I was thinking he was going to be a decent tight end, but I never thought he was going to do what he's really kind of turned into for the Bears offense. I thought he'd be similar to kind of like a Cole Kmet, where, Cole Kmet, I think, gets a little bit of hate. Like, he's a really good tight end, but he's never really blowing up stat sheets. And I kind of figured that for Colston Loveland. But, man, he's just really taken over the Bears offense. Man had 8 receptions for 137 yards. And it was just a fun game, man. It was a lot of fun to watch. I was so happy with the end result. So really stoked for the next week with those guys. Flipping it over to the Packers, Jordan Love. I got to be honest, I'm not a Jordan Love fan, but 323 with 4 touchdowns. It's very hard to argue that dude played his butt off. He had a heck of a game, and, he was not the reason that the Packers lost. That's for sure. Romeo Doubs as well. I actually had Romeo Doubs in fantasy, and there was weeks where this guy was doing great, and then he went on an absolute downer for a couple of weeks where he was, catching one pass for 10 yards, just really not being involved. And this week, man, he did nothing short of the opposite. He had 8 catches for 124 yards and a touchdown, just absolutely tore apart the Bears. And it was pretty cool to see that, Matthew Golden, I didn't put him in this because he wasn't really their leader, but Matthew Golden had a pretty good game as well. So kind of cool to see, a young Matthew Golden starting to find his stride there towards the end of the season, as well as just Dobbs really having a heck of a game to end it out on. And obviously down at the bottom, boys, McManus sucks. Dude was 0 for 2 on field goals. And if you look at that final score up there, boys, 6 points is a literal game changer. It is the absolute definition of a game changer. So McManus just really sold this week for the team. And it sucks for the Packers. Obviously, I'm not a fan of them, but like anytime you lose like that, that just sucks. And I think he just kicked himself out of a job next year with the Green Bay Packers. And some curious talks that I have is, what are we talking about with Matt LaFleur for next year? Definitely a topic of conversation for maybe a later day. I don't know. It's going to be interesting nonetheless, but very similar to the slide we were just on here. The Bears are going to play the Rams. That's going to be on Sunday at 6:30. Going to be a heck of a game. I will absolutely be tuning into that one there. Now, the next game we're going to touch on here, boys, is the Bills versus the Jaguars. Now, 27-24, Bills were able to hold this one on. This was also a really entertaining game, man. It came down to the wire. There was plenty of opportunities on both sides of the ball to make this game flip either way, and it was pretty fun to watch the Bills kind of play the Bills football, man. Like Josh Allen, if you look right there, 273 yards, a touchdown, and then 2 rushing touchdowns. Like, I'm a Josh Allen guy, man. He can really do it all on the ground. He can do it all in the air, and it's really cool to see he kind of had himself one of those days where both sides he was able to get it done. Khalil Shakir had himself a heck of a day as well. Once again, a guy that's kind of one of those quiet guys, but can also go off. And dude had 12 receptions for 82 yards. and really helped move the ball for them to set up those Josh Allen rushing touchdowns. And Dalton Kincaid had himself a nice touchdown as well. James Cook a little bit quiet this week, more than I would have thought. But obviously, at the end of the day, he didn't need to really do much when you have basically a second running back in Josh Allen. So, and then Trevor Lawrence, man, Trevor Lawrence really had himself a year. He's been a guy that I've really thought was on the downfall. He never really was able to kind of lock in and get the job done the way it needed to be. And then he really had himself a year this year. 207, 3 touchdowns, 2 picks, not a great game, but like at the same time, man, he had a great season and he took the team to a really good place. So I think it's something to build off of for next year. And then Parker Washington, man, 7 receptions, 107 and a touchdown. Pretty low key name in the NFL, if I'm going to be honest, like receiver wise, but really put up a good stat line for him, helped his team get the game close. They just weren't able to quite get it done. But the Buffalo Bills, they move on to take on the Denver Broncos. Now that game's going to be Saturday at 4:30 Eastern time. And when we look at USA Today's projections for that, we got the Bills winning 24-23. And then the Arizona Republic has the Broncos winning 24-21. So far, we've had a split between both of the different news articles as to who they think is going to win both of those previous playoff games. That all being said, I got to go with the Bills, man. I just don't think the Broncos have the offense to get the job done. Their defense is good, but I think that just offensively, I don't know if the Broncos are going to be the ones to get it all the way done. I do really think it's going to be a close game. It's going to be a neck and neck game, but I do think the Bills are going to be the ones to move on. And hopefully that is the case. That'd be a fun next week matchup to watch. So nonetheless, we will hop into the next game here, which is the 49ers versus the Eagles. Now, I got to be honest, you Eagles fans are going to hate me, but oh my goodness, was I so happy the Eagles lost this football game. I'm just burnt out on the Philadelphia Eagles, man. I don't know. Jalen Hurts just didn't have himself that great of a game. 168 yards and a touchdown. Saquon, he had a pretty solid game, 106 yards rushing, but didn't score. And Devontae Smith had a pretty good game as well with 8 catches for 70 yards, but just a pretty, lackluster, just nobody really did anything overly insane on the Eagles offense. Goddard had, a pretty good game as well, but it's just, I don't know. I'm not sold on the Eagles this year. I didn't think they were going to be that great this year. They ended up obviously being, better than I would have thought, but their season came to an end. And I got to be honest, I'm excited for kind of a little bit more of a fresh taste in the playoffs. Brock Purdy, 262, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks. Not a bad game, not a great game. But he was able to obviously get it done. And then obviously Christian McCaffrey, all reliable. He had 6 catches for 66 yards and 2 touchdowns. Ironically, the guy's a running back, but he seems to almost do more receiving wise. And he had some heck of a catch, man. He had a couple catches that he got up in the air to really bring it down, tight coverage. So it's cool to see him come back and have himself an incredible year. I believe he led fantasy sports with points per game as well, or total points, I guess is what I should say. Which is awesome to see that he had a pretty healthy year and was able to come back and still be as dominant as always. And then Demarcus Robinson, man, you had Ricky Pearsall hurt, you had George Kittle hurt, so you needed somebody to step up. And Demarcus Robinson, 6 receptions for 111 and a touchdown. So he was really the guy to do that. Really gave the 49ers a huge burst and kind of helped lead them to the inevitable victory that they did have. Now, the San Francisco 49ers will be taking on the Seahawks on Saturday at 8 o'clock Eastern time. Once again, I think that game is going to be a really fun game. The Seahawks team, man, they're just a fun team to watch this year. Sam Darnold, I know I'm going to be salty about it because I'm a Vikings fan. I wish we would have kept him one more year. Sam Darnold showed it that he can still throw the football. It doesn't matter if it's in Minnesota, and he's had an awesome year. And so has the entire team. JSN's a stud. It's always just an exciting football team to watch. So I'm really looking forward to that 49ers-Eagles matchup. USA Today has the Seahawks winning 25-20, and Arizona Republic has the Seahawks winning 20-13. So this is the first time they both are on the same page. They both think that the Seattle Seahawks are going to take home the win, and I don't disagree with them at all. I believe that is exactly what will happen, and we will tune in to see. And then the next one we're going to touch on here, boys, is the Patriots versus the Chargers. Now, the Patriots versus the Chargers was, I got to be honest, by far, in my opinion, the most boring game of the entire season. Or not season, my bad, of the entire playoffs. I'm checking some of my notes over here as well. But just pretty boring, man. Pretty lackluster game. Not a whole lot really went on. The Patriots they won the game, man. They made the game pretty easy for them. May had 268, 1-1. He had a ton of rushing for a quarterback once again, though, at 66 rushing yards, which is awesome to see. And then Ramondre Stevenson leading your team in receiving. That kind of shows how kind of interesting the game was. He had 3 catches for 75 yards. And then Justin Herbert, man, 159 yards and 57 rushing. So he ran for quite a bit, but just didn't produce on offense. I put boring because, like I mentioned, it was just a boring game. I was honestly expecting a little bit more out of the Chargers, and they just really weren't able to do much. Kind of a weird area with Justin Herbert because he's been in the league a few years now. I think he's a good quarterback, but there's a lot of things around the team I think that could help him, but he's just really not doing much when it really comes down to it and when it needs to be done. The Patriots are going to be taking on the Houston Texans on Sunday at 3:00 Eastern time. Should be a pretty good matchup there. The USA Today has the Patriots winning 17-16, and then Arizona Republic has the Texans winning 23-19. So once again, back to going different ways with the matchups there, but that one will be an interesting game. Drake May's having himself an MVP caliber season. He's played great. Patriots have had a heck of a year. They're coming off a pretty big win here against the Chargers. It definitely will be a fun one to watch, and I will definitely be tuning into that one as well. Now, the last game to touch on here, which is kind of a big game, especially considering some of the headlines that came out of it. And that's the Texans versus the Steelers. And, the Texans, they just absolutely worked the Steelers. 30-6, Stroud had 250, 1-1. Not a great game, not a bad game. Woody Marks had an awesome game, 112 rushing yards and a touchdown. And then the real highlight of the Texans, though, was Christian Kirk, man. 8 catches, 144 yards, and a touchdown. He just had an absolutely incredible game, tore up the Steelers' defense, and really just helped them propel themselves to this explosive win. And flipping it on over to the Steelers, man, Aaron Rodgers, pretty lackluster, man. He had 146 yards and an interception, no touchdowns to speak of, and it was really just a rough game. Now, the biggest reason why it was so rough is, the reality is Aaron Rodgers is not the Aaron Rodgers that he was. And it's kind of sad to say because the man was in the league for, I think it's been close to 20 seasons, if not 20 seasons. And he's always been the guy, and he's still got spurts of it. But you can just see that age is finally starting to hit the guy. So it'll be really interesting to see kind of what the future holds for Aaron, if this really is his one and done, or if he's maybe going to try to sign one more year, play for somebody else. Once again, they take on the Patriots on Sunday at 3 p.m. Should be a good matchup, nonetheless, for the Texans. But as I kind of just hit on, what's next, man? It's been a crazy couple of days here. Aaron Rodgers, potentially last game of his career. Not really a good one to end it on, but dude, what a season for him, and just bringing that team to the playoffs. And what a freaking career, man. You got to give your hats off to the guy. I'm a Vikings fan, as I've mentioned, and I've got a huge love-hate with Aaron Rodgers because he's always been so much better, and he's always taken the Packers, kicked our butts. But the guy is, in my opinion, the best football thrower that the league has ever seen. Just an incredible athlete, incredible talent, and he's been able to do it for so many years. So if this is his last year, hats off to the guy. He's put on a show for us for the last 20 years, and it's going to be sad to see him go. But that all being said, I don't know. I could see it maybe given one more year. Not sure where, because there's a lot of shuffling going on in the NFL right now. Not sure where that would be at, but it'll be interesting to kind of see where he does fall, if it is the last one of his career, or if he's going to try to stick out one more year. And then genuinely, the bigger headline is Mike Tomlin stepping down as head coach, not even getting fired. He's stepping down. Granted, he is the longest tenured coach in the NFL. He's been doing it forever, and he just has not been able to get it done in the playoffs, man. He's a heck of a coach. They've been great almost every year, but just not in the big games. So it's interesting to see he's stepping down. I guess that might be his last ride as well, knowing that Aaron Rodgers is also probably either done or for sure going to a different team. It's going to be interesting, man. Really interesting to see where the next NFL season takes us. There's a lot of head coaches that are spinning around. There's a lot of players that are spinning around. It will be fun nonetheless. So I know this one's going to be a little bit of a shorter episode, guys, but I do want to just touch on a couple of the other big sports that are happening this weekend before we do kind of wrap up this episode. Now, obviously, the biggest thing right there in the center, we have the playoffs this week. And once again, Seattle taking on the 49ers, as well as the Rams taking on the Bears in the NFC. And then we've got the Denver Broncos taking on the Buffalo Bills and the Texans taking on the Patriots. Now, my personal predictions for this next coming week, I'm going to give you guys those right now. I'm going to slate those in, and we'll see how accurate I was when I come back. In the NFC, I got the Seattle Seahawks taking down the 49ers, and I got the Chicago Bears taking down the Rams. That might be a hot take on my end. Maybe it's because I just enjoy them, but I absolutely am feeling like that is going to be the day that the Bears and the Seahawks play to go to the Super Bowl. So I'm absolutely stoked about that, and I'm looking forward to seeing who really does prevail there. Now, on the other side of things, I've got the Buffalo Bills and I've got the New England Patriots. And I think that the Drake May, Josh Allen showdown is going to be an incredible matchup if it's able to end up that way. I think both of those quarterbacks play a very similar game, and I'm really, really excited to see how that all ties down. And the biggest thing you'll notice is the teams I'm projecting as well. It's going to give us a pretty fresh Super Bowl opportunity. The Bills, the Patriots, the Bears, and the Seahawks. It's been a long time since some of those teams have really been in the spotlight and winning an opportunity to go to the Super Bowl. So it'll be fun. I'm excited for it, and I will definitely be back to discuss it next week. Now, on the other side of things, there's two other sports I did want to touch on, as I mentioned in the opening there. And the first one is the Australian Open kicks off on Sunday. The previous winners were Jannik Sinner for the men's side and Madison Keys on the women's side. And, tennis is a sport I feel like a lot of people are very hit or miss on. But over the last, 3, 4, 5 years now, there's a lot of Americans that have really started to step into the spotlight on both the men's side and the women's side. So it is really fun to kind of keep tabs on that and kind of see where everybody is falling. It's going to be a very entertaining tournament nonetheless. There's a lot of big names in it. Nikola Djokovic definitely is nearing his career end as well, getting old and playing as much as he's played. So this season of tennis is going to be a fun one to watch, as it potentially could be his farewell tour as well. Now, moving over into the side of golf, once again, we have the SONY Open in Hawaii, which is going to be a great tournament. It's going to be a really fun one. Obviously, as I mentioned earlier, the Century was canceled due to weather conditions and course conditions. So because of that, this is the only tournament played in Hawaii to start this year. So there are quite a few big names that they ended up to just not come out, just to take a trip to Hawaii for the week rather than a couple of weeks. Now, that all being said, some big names that have been confirmed to play. We got Colin Morikawa, we got Hideki Matsuyama, JJ Spawn, and Jordan Spieth, just to name a few. I'm a big Jordan Spieth guy. He obviously has kind of began to steadily decline over the last couple of years, as well as he's starting to age and deal with injuries. But I'd really love to see him have himself a pretty big year this year, coming back off of a wrist injury a couple of years ago. It'd be really fun to see him kind of take the stage this year and really dominate. And the previous winner of that tournament was Nick Taylor. Now, for the odds here, here's a couple of the guys that they're looking at being some of the front runners for this year's tournament. We got Russell Henley at plus 1,100. We got Matsuyama and Ben Griffin at plus 1,700. I have a big feeling Ben Griffin's going to have a good week. JJ Spawn at plus 1,800. Morikawa and Siwoo Kim, as well as Robert McIntyre at plus 2,000. And then Spieth is down at plus 4,500. Now, that all being said, Nick Taylor, previous winner, he's at plus 4,000. And it's going to be a really fun tournament, man. It's exciting that golf is back kicking off. I love playing golf in my free time. I enjoy watching it as well. So really looking forward to this week. It's going to be a fun one, whether you're interested in NFL, you're interested in golf, you're interested in Australian Open tennis, whatever it may be. It's a good weekend for any sports fans out there. Now, with that all being said, guys, I think that is where we're going to call this week's episode. Not too long, not too short, a good middle ground episode here for episode 2. Nonetheless, though, for you that did tune in, I appreciate all of you guys popping in. Hopefully you guys enjoyed and took away a couple of good tidbits from this week's sports and what to kind of expect for the weekend. As always, please leave some comments down below, whether you're watching this on YouTube or on Spotify, and let's chat a little bit. Let's kind of talk about some of these hot takes, see what you guys think is going to happen. Let me know if there's any things you guys would also like to see within these episodes on the weekly basis. But with all that being said, guys, once again, Jace K, appreciate your guys' time. Thank you for watching Beyond the Bench, and I will catch you guys next week. See you guys.